We are living in that age now. I feel like you know some people, but you only know their internet presence.
Yep. Yeah.
Can I get you anything to drink, like sparkling
water would be great. Sparkling water would be so much fun.
Okay,
I've had plenty of caffeine today already.
I've got cranberry coconut, and then I've got Liquid Death sparkling water, and then Liquid Death buried alive.
What's the buried alive?
It's just berry flavored.
Let me try the Liquid Death buried alive. That sounds fun. I love buried alive.
Yeah, I was drinking these all weekend. I went to Bob Fest this past weekend.
How was it?
It was great. Went down, what was it, Saturday at 5. I got there like 5 p.m. Stayed up till like 4 a.m., 4 or 5 a.m. Mm-hmm. And then left at 10 a.m. Mm-hmm. So it was a fun, quick in and out camping experience, whatever, in the woods. So on this like little stream that people were swimming in.
I did see some pictures. It looked like it was a good time.
It was fun. I'm definitely going next year.
I guess, okay, so 2020, there was the pandemic. Did they do it last year?
I think so. Yeah. I didn't go last year for whatever reason. But, yeah, what were you doing earlier today?
I had to write an article, and then I went to get coffee with my roommate. That was what I did. Nice. So I started writing the article, and then we went to get coffee, and then I finished the article, and then I came here.
Awesome.
And my roommate was also talking to me while I was doing the article.
What's the article on?
Canadian religious and spiritual news. I do the bare minimum because I work in a restaurant. So I stopped. I thought that I was going to be making like most of my income doing this, and then I realized I don't have the attention span for it. But I write these like contract blog articles for a company called BKA, which stands for Better Keyword Articles. So I was writing like just whatever at first, just like, you know, there's like a system and you just pick which articles you want to write. And then they were looking for writers to write for the Universal Life Church's blog, because they have a subsidiary called the Monastery, and they ordain anybody. I mean, you can be, you know, a imam, or you can be a rabbi, you know, like a Catholic priest, and you can join the Universal Life Church and be ordained to officiate weddings. They started doing it for like, you know, gay people that want to get married, because a lot of the time it's hard for them to find, you know, people who are either Catholic or Protestant Christians to officiate weddings. So this was a means for them to have access to people that would officiate a wedding. But anyway, I started writing blogs for them, and then it's kind of like a 4-week cycle. 1 week I write one about, you know, gay couples getting married. 1 week I write one about marriages. One I write about alternative spirituality, and 1 week I write about just general Canadian religious news.
Oh wow. Okay, so it's mostly theological stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it that.
Just news on the religious stuff.
Yeah, like right now in Canada, like the Pope just left. I don't know if you saw this, but this time last year they started digging up these mass graves that were on property of where like these forced boarding schools used to be. They called them residential schools in Canada. So as a policy of forced assimilation, they used to take the Indigenous children away and send them to these schools and teach them how to be Canadian. And among other abuses, they were rampant with disease, so a lot of the kids died, and they would just bury them in mass graves. And some geologists were, I don't know what they were doing, but they were doing something. They would pick up these heat signatures, and they would be like, oh, well, that's a mass grave. So this time last year, about from right now, I think through September or October, they found 3 or 4 of them. So that renewed discussion in Canada about this policy, and a lot of Indigenous community leaders at this time last year were demanding an apology from the Catholic Church. And they went to the Vatican and they met with Pope Francis, and he apologized personally. The Catholic Church, though, because they're like, in one respect, he's the face of the Catholic Church, but he is like, an apology from the Pope is his personal opinion. It's not necessarily the opinion of the Vatican, the broader institution. So the Catholic Church hadn't issued a formal apology, but in addition to his apology with the delegates that went to Vatican City, he just got back from a trip to Canada a few days ago. So all that to say, this week I was writing about Canadian religious and spiritual news, and that was the big thing that happened. So I wrote about 600 words about that today.
Cool.
So
I'm going to need to start doing that for my website. It's a completely different topic. car detailing and cleaning.
You have a website for that?
Yeah.
Oh. Is that like, are you into that kind of thing?
That's just how I make my money. It's my business.
Writing about car detailing and cleaning.
No.
Are you car detailing?
I have a business called Software Detailing.
Okay.
And I clean and detail cars for money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. How long have you been doing that?
I've been running the business for over 3 years now.
Yeah.
But I used to clean my car in high school. I used to always keep my car like super clean. And then I just realized, do it for money.
Yeah. This is something that you did on your own. You turned into a business. You don't come from like a family of car detailers.
Not at all.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. That goes back to what we were saying. That was like, you'll know people's online personality and nothing, because I know you really as a drummer. You know what I mean?
Right. And then know me because of this.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, dude. Social media is weird. Especially, I don't know, like after the whole the update thing on Instagram. You know what I'm talking about?
What happened?
So they turned it into TikTok.
What?
Yeah, and they're taking it away because people didn't like it, and so it may have reset by now. But
I never noticed any change.
I think you would have had to like update your phone, and I think mine is maybe set to where it's automatically. But basically, what it was you would open the app, and you'd see a post, and then when you try to scroll to the next one, it would go full screen. And it would either show you a video or a post in full screen, and it was literally just like...
So instead of a feed,
yeah,
it was like you had to watch them into it. I hate that.
Yeah, most people did. I kind of just stopped opening it. I was just like, well, I don't really like this.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to use it.
I don't like that about TikTok, because then you're absorbed by one topic or option, and in order to get to a new option, you have to scroll. So,
yeah.
Or it's just... consumes so much more of your time.
TikTok never. I thought that it would. It never sucked me in. It for me as an individual, it doesn't keep my attention. I get bored if I'm going to consume like content that I'm not emotionally invested in. I watch YouTube.
Yeah.
But I don't want to sound like that old person that hates TikTok. It's just like, part of the appeal of Instagram is keeping in touch with people that you know. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But with the update, it'll just show you anything. It is people that you know are in it, but it's just showing you shit.
Just sponsored ads and stuff.
And there are also a lot of sponsored ads. I don't know. It just it sucked.
It took the charm away from Instagram.
It did. But at least temporarily, it's going away. But they were very clear when they said that it is a temporary go away thing, because they, from a business perspective, they want to be able to keep up with TikTok, because TikTok is the
new one.
It's the new one, and it's also the one that has the momentum. You know what I mean? Instagram and Facebook, to be quite frank with you, are very established, but that's not where the growth is at. So I say that to say I haven't really been. I've tuned out of social media in a way that I have never done before recently, because I was just like, I don't like this. I'm gonna go find something else to do.
Right.
But I think for folks that are about our age, I kind of, especially post-pandemic, that kind of puts you out of touch with the world, because that's where your social circle is at.
Right.
Because especially like it was trending this way before, but certainly after the pandemic, we don't see each other as much. I ran into you at a show.
Right.
But that was by happenstance.
Right.
Because Jake invited me out to go see Country Death. Is that who you went to go see?
I went to go see Pediment.
Okay, got it. And that's
Happy's band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I haven't met him, but I'm just from the social. I was like, okay, well, it's like we follow each other and we know some of the same folks. I don't know. It's a small town, but even still, you don't know everybody.
No. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's impossible to know everyone.
It was a good time.
That was a great show.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, let's get started here. Hey everyone, welcome to the Nashville Artist. I'm Jordan, and today Solomon Smith is here.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to my house.
It's a lovely house.
So, where are you from?
I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, originally. Technically, I'm from a suburb called Mapleton, which is kind of like what Madison would be to Nashville. So Mapleton to Atlanta is what Madison is to Nashville. Did I say that right?
Madison is to Nashville.
What Mapleton is to Atlanta, or vice versa. You could take any four of those and flip them, and
Right.
They're about the same distance from each other. So you're pretty close to the city, but you're also, in its own little suburban community. But no, I was born there. I was born in Atlanta, but my house was in Mapleton, and that's where my parents still live.
Nice. Well, do you have any siblings?
I have one brother, and he is 20. He's almost 20. Is he almost 24? Yeah, I think so. I think he just turned 23.
Oh wow.
Rather, he turned 23 in September last year, so that would make him about 24.
Is he
in September?
Is he also musical?
He is. He likes a lot. I think both of us like other things, like a lot, but he's a pretty serious guitar player. He's heavy into blues and rock and roll stuff. Like, when I say rock and roll, I'm talking about like 70s stuff.
Right.
But he's like a pretty studied blues musician.
What is his name?
His name is Andrew. Mm-hmm.
Where does he live?
He just graduated from UGA, and right now he's just at my parents' house. Like, he just graduated in May.
Oh.
He's thinking about going back to Athens, I think. But right now he's just at my parents' house. I'm going home on Wednesday. My mom just finished her PhD program, so I'm gonna go home, and then we're all gonna go to Mississippi for her graduation.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What did she get a PhD?
Nursing administration and something like that. I don't know exactly what the program is, but she's a lifelong career nurse, and she was transitioning away from the bedside, so she got a master's degree in some form of nursing education certification thing, and then just went on and got a PhD. So she was working on that for about two and a half, 3 years. I don't know, I'm losing track of time, but she's been doing it for a few years, and now she's finished with that program.
Oh, nice. Is your dad also in the medical field, or?
No, he works for UPS, but for me, when I was a kid, he was an educator. He was a special, he taught special education, and then he became a school counselor, a guidance counselor, and then he did that for most of my time as a young man. As a kid, that's what he did.
Nice. So what were you into as a kid?
I read a lot, and I had Encarta. I don't know. Do you remember Encarta?
What is Encarta?
Encarta is an online encyclopedia. So we had a.
Oh, I understand.
My dad had My dad is from Kentucky. There was a traveling salesman that sold them a bunch of encyclopedias in 1968. So he would have been 14 that year. But a traveling salesman sold them a set of encyclopedias, and he just kept them. So I was reading I had a set of alphabetized encyclopedias from the year 1968, but I didn't know they were from 1968. They were just books to me. And then we had a personal computer. This is the early and mid 90s, obviously, and they wouldn't allow me to have fun video games, so they gave me Jump Start and Encarta, which is an online CD-ROM encyclopedia, that kind of stuff. So that's what I remember doing the most. I was in Little League baseball, but I was never really good at it. Or I don't even know if I wasn't good at it. I don't I just, it was just a thing that I did.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I was always into learning kinds of things. I was never I didn't really do sports or anything like that. My dad tried to make me an athlete. That obviously didn't work. But those are kind of the earliest things I remember. I remember those encyclopedias, and I remember Encarta on CD-ROM, and I remember Jump Start.
What other kind of books would you read?
I really like dinosaurs. I remember the Magic Treehouse series.
Oh yeah, dude, I read a shitload of those.
Yeah, those were pretty hot back when I was in first and second grade. I missed the Harry Potter wave. I don't know, because I guess my parents thought it was evil. But I've also never really been a big fiction person. I always had a lot of reference books, I can't remember what D and K stands for, but you remember the D and K reference books?
Maybe.
It's a big red logo. It says DK on them, and there would be about this is what it was like to be a knight in the 1400s, or they'll be about I don't know, archaeology or world religions, those kinds of things. I always had stuff like that. Just a lot of educational stuff, which makes sense because my dad was an educator. But I watched cartoons and stuff. I liked SpongeBob, and I liked Dexter's Laboratory and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, Dexter's Laboratory.
It was a good one.
Yeah.
I was still partial more so to Nickelodeon than I was to
Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went back and forth. I still remember the channels they were on. 34 was Cartoon Network and 28 was Nickelodeon.
Was that cable?
Yeah.
So we had satellite TV for a long time. Like I don't think we got direct TV until I was maybe 13 or 14. We had like little. Have you ever seen satellite TV?
Yeah, I think so.
Like you had like the massive dish that was like bolted into the ground, and like when you changed the channels, it like turned.
I think so. How big was the dish?
Like it looks like a space antenna.
Like the size of this room.
It wasn't that big, but like it was probably like as big as that refrigerator.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's literally a big metal satellite dish that like points up into the sky.
Yeah, I remember seeing those.
We had satellite TV for a long time, and like so like like the channels weren't just a number. You had to go to like Cartoon Network on satellite TV, at least with the carrier that we had, was G1-8. So you'd have a remote and you'd go like, and then it would bring up like F4, G1, C7, this kind of thing. Like Cartoon Network was G1-8 and Nickelodeon was F4-3.
Wow.
Yeah, but I'm sure that that's not a thing like anymore. I don't know if that was like a precursor to cable or if it was like an in-between. Like I don't know. I don't know anybody else that had satellite TV where we lived. I just remember we had it, and one day somebody just came and like got that satellite dish, and then we had like the small like Dish Network or Comcast things that sit on top of your house.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Huh. Okay, cool. So what first got you into music?
So I don't know. My dad like dabbled in it when he was younger, so there were always instruments around the house. Like there were keyboards and there were a couple of basses. And to make a long story short, I used to like just tinker around on the keyboards, and he asked if I wanted to take piano lessons. And the first time I said no, and then he asked again, like maybe six months or a year later, and then I said yeah. And that was really kind of where it started. Like he always listened to music a lot, so I grew up around it, but I didn't like really start. Well, there was that. I guess I did play the cello for a little bit, and I guess I was in chorus for a little bit too. But I don't know. I was always like around it in a very like adjacent sense. Like he had accumulated a lot of musical gear over the years, and he just wasn't really doing anything with it. It was just sitting there, and sometimes I would just be bored, and I would just like tinker around with it, beep 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 beep, pop 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 pop. And then I got lessons. That was like when I took piano lessons. That's like really kind of like where it started. But I did play cello for a little bit, and I was in chorus for a little bit. And I think I sang like one solo in church like one time when I was like 7. So it's kind of just always been there, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What were your early influences or certain artists that you're like, wow, they're really cool, I want to be like that?
I think the first thing that I really, really remember, like, so this would have been 2005, 2006, I bought, now that's what I call music, I don't know which one that was, maybe 18. It might not have even been 18, but Feel Good Inc. was on it by the Gorillaz.
You bought what? I'm sorry?
Like, Now That's What I Call Music.
Now That's What I Call Music?
Like, you remember those?
I think so. I remember Now.
Yeah, like, it's like Now.
Yeah.
That's what I call music.
Yeah, I just remember it as Now.
But I bought one of those CDs. I don't know where I got the money from, but I bought one of those CDs, and I remember Feel Good Inc. was the last track on it. Yeah. So I bought Demon Days after that, because that song was on it. So that was like the first album that I bought with my own money, because Now That's What I Call Music isn't really a good album. I mean, it isn't really, it's not that it's not a good album, but it's not an album, it's just a compilation of popular songs at that point.
Right.
And it's funny because that edition of it, that has Mr. Brightside on it, It has Feel Good Inc. on it, it has 2 a.m. Breathe on it. You remember that one?
I'm not sure. 2 a.m.
2 a.m. and she calls while I'm still awake. Can you help me unravel my latest mistake? I don't love him. It was, I think it's like by Anna Nalick or something like that. She never had another song that I'm aware of, but that song, it was huge when it was out. That song was on there. Holla Back Girl by Gwen Stefani is on that one. It's the very first track on it.
Oh yeah.
And then there are a few tracks on it that just didn't go on to have the same legacy. Like there's a early Akon feature on there by a dude named Baby Bash called, like, I think it's called I'm Back. There's a song on there called Girl Fight by Brooke Valentine featuring Lil Jon. I think Ludacris might be on it. But yeah, like Mr. Brightside and Feel Good Inc. are on it, man. You know, at this point, those are classic songs. But I bought that, and then I bought Demon Days by the Gorillaz. with some money that I had from Christmas or some shit like that. And that was like the first album that I think that like it was the first one that I ever picked because like my parents listened. My mom isn't a big music person, but my dad is. He listened to a lot like Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye, and he listened to a lot of the contemporary like gospel music at the time or inspirational music at the time. Sounds like Donnie McClurkin and Fred Hammond and that kind of stuff, which was real popular back then. And now I guess they're kind of like that's like classic inspirational music at this point, but at the time they were contemporary. Yolanda Adams. But Demon Days was probably like the first thing that I picked because it's like. And at that point, like I'm like 11 or 12 or 13, so I don't know like who Damon Albarn is, or I don't know who Blur is, and that kind of stuff. Like in my mind as a kid, like Gorillaz is like actually a band, you know what I mean? But it's even for its time, it's pretty diverse because it's like it's rock and roll, but it's kind of electronic, and there's a lot of hip hop on it.
Right, some dub.
Yeah, it's a diverse record, and I don't know, but like as a kid, like it's just music, you know what I mean? Like it's just music and it's fun and it's either good or it's not, or you either enjoy it or you don't, you know what I mean? But I really liked it. Like all the songs on it were really good, and just compared to what my parents were listening to, it was just all like it was just different, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I don't really revisit it, but I just remember it like a lot. Like I don't know. Have you listened to it like all the way through?
Demon Days?
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love Gorillaz.
Yeah. I think Plastic Beach was the follow up after that one, or was?
No, it's wait. Demon Days.
There's one in, but is there not one in between there?
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called.
Because I know that they have a like Stylo is the single with Bobby Womack on it.
Oh yeah, that's from Plastic Beach.
Okay, so damn, that must have been the next one then, which is weird because
I think that was in 2009 maybe.
Okay, so maybe they're not as far apart as I think then. Okay, that sounds about right then, because that'll only put them about 4 years apart.
2008. Yeah.
That sounds about right. That sounds.
I remember when Plastic Beach came out.
Yeah.
I think I was in 9th or 10th grade.
That sounds about right, because you're like I saw your birthday in the book that you were showing me for your grandmother, so you're about a year older than me, so that sounds about right. But I didn't listen to it nearly as much. Like the singles on it were pretty good, because Melancholy Hill is on that. Is on Plastic Beach.
Mm-hmm.
What else is on there?
Superfast Jellyfish.
Yeah, that one's good. Yeah. I haven't listened to that song in a minute.
Some of them play like commercial, which I like.
Yeah, I see. I don't know this one as well as Demon Days, but yeah, I do remember that tune being out. It's like the little goofy commercial about the microwave jellyfish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and it's like sang to you in kind of hip hop / kind of rap form, but it's like you're walking down the street.
Yeah, that stuff is cool. But yeah, man, I don't know that. I can't think of any. There's the only other record like that. Obviously, a few years went by between point A and point B, but like Demon Days was kind of like the first music that I picked, like on my own, and like got really emotionally invested in. And then like the next big one is not a big record at all. They only had one album. There's a band from Portland called Hockey, and they had an album called Mind Chaos. And like I remember me and my brother, we had MLB 08, the show, like the baseball game, EA Sports.
Oh, yeah.
They had just like a bunch of tunes on it or whatever, but they had one of their songs on it. And like this was like right around the time where like YouTube is like starting to walk in the world or whatever, so I like watch some of that. It's like a pure like new wave album. Like it's good, but they, like for one reason or another, they just never had any real like follow up. Yeah, and I think because they had like a little bit of like a deal, but the deal ended up not going anywhere. And then there's like a couple of like self-releases under the same name, but it's just like one dude. His name's Ben. But that album is pretty fucking cool too. I still listen to that. Like when I go for runs, I still listen to that album because the cuts on that album are actually pretty good. But in the grand scheme of the world, it didn't really make a big splash.
That's cool.
The Marshall Mathers LP. Like I spent the summer living at my cousin's house, and she had like a bunch of like records, and that happened to be one of them. Like she had like the Marshall Mathers LP and the Eminem Show on CD, and I think I was just curious, and I just put them on, and I listened to both of those CDs a lot, which is weird because like they did not age well, like from a content perspective. But the songs are good. Like the songs on those records are really, really good. And for Eminem to be like such like a, well, for peak Eminem, like Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP, Eminem Show LP, like those three, you know, incredible rapper. And for him to be so influential, I also like kind of like loathe him. And it's not even necessarily because of the content, but just because like what he went from and what he turned into and what like the genre of rap music that he spawned is just like, I cannot believe we have that. Like some of that stuff I just like there, do you remember Noisy? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you know Vice News?
Yeah.
Okay, so Vice had a subsidiary called Noisy where they talked about music, and this was a thing from about maybe 2012 to 2016. Like I don't remember them writing anything past 2015 or 2016. But somebody wrote an article called Sing for the Moment. You remember that song by Eminem, Sing for the Moment?
Yeah, maybe.
It samples Aerosmith's Dream On.
Probably.
It's one of his more notable songs, and it's on the Eminem Show, but it like, and this isn't like, because like now if you listen to rap music, like they'll sample songs, but it's rare that you hear songs that are like, they just flip the sample and you rap over the sample, like maybe it's like sparse here and there, but this is like, it's Dream On with Eminem rapping over it, like essentially is what it is. But this article was like, Dream On is it was the birth of white rap, quote unquote. Like it says that this song was like the moment that like Yellow Wolf became a thing, and like MGK before he became like a whatever the fuck he's doing now became a thing, and like stuff like that. And some of that music I'm just like, it just makes me groan. But like, because early Eminem isn't like that, but like right around the Sing for the Moment, Cleaning Out My Closet era, that kind of just spawned like an entirely new like subgenre of rap music that sometimes it's just, to me, it's just a big eye roll.
Cringe.
It's very cringe, but a lot of people are into it. Like it doesn't really matter what I think. That is what I think, but a lot of people are into it.
Right. Okay, so you said your first instrument was piano?
If you don't count cello, but I don't really even count cello, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Main instruments, piano, guitar, sing.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how did you start out playing music? Was it school, or like did you have bands?
I took piano lessons, and then I like played like a little song that I wrote, and like I didn't sing, I just played like the piano, like my dad had this old keyboard, and it had like cool synth sounds on it, and it had like it was like one of the old keyboards that had like the drum loops like programmed into it, so you could push a button and then like it would play drums, and then like there was like a little subsection to where like there was like an intro section for this drum part, and there was like a verse section for this drum part, and there was like a bridge section for this drum part and a chorus section, and you could like set them up to like trigger or whatever, and you could save all this shit on floppy disk because that's how old it was. It was like that old of a good keyboard. I think he still has it. It was made by a company called Ensoniq, which, if I'm not mistaken, is probably one of the only like American keyboard manufacturers from that era, and I don't think they make anything anymore, because obviously, you know, like the workstation keyboards, when those were a thing, like that was all dominated by Japanese companies. There was Yamaha and Korg. Casio didn't really have workstations. The big ones were Korg and Yamaha, but he had an Ensoniq workstation or whatever, and I had like played like this little song that I wrote that was called Midnight Rain, because I was 11 and I just thought that was so fucking cool or whatever, and I played the 5th grade talent show with it. Then that was the thing that happened, and then I was 11 at that point. I didn't really do like obviously I had piano recitals, and I had that from the time that I was about 11 to the time I was about 14. And then sometime around the point where I was 14, I realized through a long and slow, painful process that maybe we'll get into, maybe we won't see what happens, but I realized that when you take piano lessons, you're learning to play the piano. You're not really learning music. Because I can play the piano, but I'm not a pianist per se. Like, I can play the guitar, but I'm not a guitarist per se. You know what I mean? Like, I can play the bass, but I'm not a bassist per se. I haven't really dedicated like time to studying an instrument. I just understand music in a very general sense, you know. So like what ended up happening was back in the day, you could probably still do this, but like you used to be able, like, you remember when like Apple became cool?
Mm-hmm.
So like when Apple became like cool in like 2007 and 2008, they would set up these genius sessions at the Apple store that you could book with like an Apple employee, and they would teach you how to use a Mac, they teach you how to use Final Cut, they teach you how to use Logic Pro. We were going to some mall, like the Atlanta area is full of malls. I can't remember which mall it was anymore, but we were going to the mall, my dad, brother, and I. We were going to the mall to hang out with this dude who was like one of the Apple geniuses, and he happened to be like a progressive jazz bassist. His name was Vince, and he taught me like how to use Logic or whatever, and like I knew enough about the piano to play a few chords here and like play a bass part here and there or whatever. And he used to talk a lot about jazz, and like I would like watch jazz videos here and there or whatever. And I was like, oh dude, I want to be able to like solo and improvise like that. So he hooked me up with his roommate, who was this guy his name was Kevin. His name was Kevin Osborne, but everybody called him Oz. And he played everything, but his like primary instrument was saxophone. I went over to his house, and he just basically like, he didn't give me a piano lesson per se, but he gave me like music lessons through the context of piano. So like, he gave me the basics of like, what a pentatonic scale was, what a blues scale was, what a whole tone scale was, what a diatonic scale was, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And, just gave me the basics of like, this is a major chord, this is a minor chord, this is a major seventh, this is a minor seventh, this is a diminished seventh, this is, that kind of stuff. So that was kind of like my entryway of just like breaking music apart, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then when I went to high school, I kind of had that background, but I went to a performing arts high school, which was weird because I was zoned for that high school anyway. It just happened to have a performing arts magnet program in it. So I got in that and started taking voice lessons. And then like when you take voice lessons in this context and you're like, in choir in this context, and you kind of learn like, well, this is not true for most choral programs. Most choral programs teach solfege, but they taught numbers. So there was kind of this weird cross-pollination from me getting like a very, very basic intro to jazz theory, and being able to like understand like the Nashville number system. Like that wasn't intentional. That was just kind of a thing that happened on accident. But all those things just kind of converged, you know what I mean? Like the fact that I even make music, like it is kind of just a weird accident. Like it wasn't, because like my roommate is a 19-year-old singer-songwriter, and she'll talk to me about like, hearing Taylor Swift from the first time, because she was born in Turkey, and she, like some kind of way she got her hands on Taylor Swift records, and I guess Taylor Swift is famous all over the world, but in any instance, she was listening to Taylor Swift a lot, and Taylor Swift inspired her to write songs. My life is not like that. Like, I kind of just fell into it. You know what I mean? It was just and I guess really when you think about it, I mean, you're into philosophy, like you hear about, determinism. Mm-hmm. My entire relationship with music has just been a series of falling dominoes that were absolutely outside of my control, and then I just kind of developed, a very, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a well-defined skill set, but it is a very specific skill set of being able to play instruments just well enough, and sing just well enough, and produce just well enough, and record just well enough to where I can do everything a little bit. And I like doing everything just a little bit and enough to where I'm just like, cool, I'm just going to, pull up Logic and then make this thing real quick. I don't know, man. It's like, it's weird. Like, I know I'm all over the place, but like, it's weird. Like, when I look back over my life, I guess it is kind of like linear on how I ended up at this point. But as I look back on it, I realize, oh, well, in order to explain that, I have to explain that. It jumps around all over the place. So I can't even remember what the question that you asked was, but
I just asked, how did you start out, like school, mm-hmm. bands, whatever?
It was really like piano lessons was the main, like the only band I ever played in was me, my dad, and my brother. We had like a cover band for a little bit. Like here's what you have to understand to explain this. So, and I'm not saying this to like be difficult or anything like that. I love my dad. I love my parents. But, like we happened to be very economically secure, but like my dad was abusive, and he's still alive, obviously, like he's not gone, but like he was abusive, and he had what he thought were unfulfilled musical ambitions. And I say he thought because I think that he liked the idea of being a musician. I don't think that he actually wanted to be a musician. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think that he liked the idea of it, but like the fact of the matter is, if this is like a lifestyle that you want to commit to, your life is not going to look like most people's life. I think that he wanted a normal life. He wanted to be like a musician and like sing and like dance and like play the bass and this kind of thing, but also have a normal life where he's like home by 5 o'clock. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's just like not how it worked. And I think that there is a part of him that just like can't let that go. And what ended up happening was, because his entryway, because like he grew up poor, my mom grew up poor, and basically they got out of their conditions by going to the military and going into athletics, which is what a lot of black folks did back then. And then they just, they got jobs and they became like regular people or whatever. And then I think his impulse at first was to turn me into an athlete, which did not work. And then when he realized that I like gravitated towards music, to make a long story short, what ended up happening was that became like I'm going to push you in this direction thing. And it was weird because I liked it enough, but I also like didn't necessarily pick it either. And what ended up happening was, if abuse is something that triggers you, you should maybe like pause this or something like that. But what ended up happening was I was 12 and he put me in the hospital over cello lessons, and I went away. Like me and my brother had to like go away into a foster program for about a year, and he ended up going to jail for a little bit. And then he got out, and he came back, and he had effectively lost his career. So his rationale was, well, this is the perfect time to try to do music again. And we like started playing these old songs that he had written. And that's how we got like Logic and we got Max and that stuff, because we were gonna like try to record it ourselves or whatever, which like we did. But like I'm like 14, I don't know shit about shit, you know what I mean? And this was not a fun time in my life, to be honest with you. Like it wasn't fun at all, but I didn't really have any choice. But I learned a little bit about Logic in that, and I learned a little bit about like playing and singing at the same time. And to make a long story short, I picked up a few covers here and there. So I was just like unknowingly developing, like I said, a very specific skill set when it comes to songwriting and production and performing. And then I ended up going to MTSU and like just kind of like bullshitting my way through a recording engineer program, not really learning anything in it, just kind of being in college because no alternative option was like presented to me. And then I was just like, well, I don't really know what to do, so I guess I'll do this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like it's weird because like don't get me wrong, I love making music, but like to be honest with you, I didn't really have any choice in the matter when it came down to it. But that's not something you realize in the moment. You only realize that looking backwards.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The good thing / bad thing is you weren't chosen it, but it sounds like because you just do it, you don't think too hard about it.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, for people that are obsessed with it, they're like, feel like this is my meaning. I gotta,
Yeah.
They're overthinking everything.
That's you hit it on the head when that. The way that I explain it, I think that because not everybody is an artist per se. Some people just play. You know what I mean? But when you're an artist, you have to be emotionally invested, like totally emotionally invested in the creation part, while also totally emotionally detaching from the release and promotion part. Which like that sounds like it shouldn't make any sense. But that's like exactly like what you have to do, and like some people are maybe better at that. Like you have people like Pitbull who like are all in on the marketing and promotion part, but like let's be honest, like the music assumes the worst of the listener, and it's not necessarily like it's very much like we're trying to fulfill a formula here. Like this music is designed to be sold, and I'm very good at selling, which don't get me wrong, that can work, but that is its own journey. And then there's the other journey to where it's like I'm pouring my heart and soul into this thing, and I'm going to put it out into the world, and I don't really know what to do with it. But then I'm upset when nothing happens. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I feel like most people vacillate towards extremes.
Yeah. And then there's the person who fulfills himself and then puts it out and doesn't care.
Yeah.
They hope it does well, but if it doesn't, they fulfill themselves first.
Exactly.
So
that's like for me, like do you know Taylor Bogner? I'm not Taylor Bogner. Taylor Wofford. Bloodroot. She played at Bobfest.
I didn't see her.
Okay.
I got there on Saturday.
I gotcha. I don't know.
Wait on Friday.
Okay. Well, you should check out her music if you haven't heard it.
Okay.
And I think she'd also be a good person to interview. But Taylor, it's funny because like when I listen to local podcasts, I don't know if you've heard Devalued yet.
Yeah, I've listened to a little bit of Caroline's.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They had Gil and Tails Taylor. I don't know what Taylor's last name is, but the booker at the East Room, and he plays in Tails.
Right.
And Gil Costello from the Basement, they had them on, and Gil told a Taylor story. Everybody has a Taylor story. Because she plays in a great band, and she works over at Eastside Music Supply. But when I did a podcast, because I had one in the early part of the pandemic, I still had, like, all the episodes are still up, but I haven't made episode in forever. But she was like, the reward is in the writing. And I think that's, like, when you're an artist, that's what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Like, the reward is in the writing. You have to fulfill yourself before you fulfill anything else, just like you said. But then comes the part where you have to have the courage to be able to promote without emotional investment in the promotion. And there is something to be said to where it's like you just put it out and not care. But like,
well, I mean, you do everything in your power to make it scene ready, like available, but at the end of the day, you have to realize you only have so much control. You don't
really have any control, to be honest with you. You
putting out is the control you have.
Yeah, I mean you
could choose not to put it out.
You could do that. There's the effort part. Like you can't control what happens when you put the effort in, when you tell people, oh, I have this out, or you make a TikTok, or you shoot a video, or you run ads and these kinds of things. But like for example, like you have a car detailing business. Mm-hmm. How do you find clients?
Make myself known.
Same thing with being a musician.
Right.
But the broader personality type of musicians, for some reason, is very averse to advertising the fact that they're a musician, because there's kind of like there's this fictional narrative that says people will just find good music. And as ridiculous as that sounds when I say it, that is what most people believe.
Right, but you can't follow the crowd.
Yeah, right. Well, you can't follow the crowd, but it's also like, in a certain sense, like if you're going to be an artist, you have to market to some degree. But it's also taboo to say that you're doing it. You have to pretend like you're not doing it.
Sure.
Yeah, like, you see what I'm saying?
That's like what you call manipulation, which a lot of marketing is. And
yeah,
I mean, it's not always bad though. This has manipulation all over it. It says death to plastic. We donate 10% of profits from every can sold to help kill plastic pollution. Mm-hmm. That manipulates your heart for wanting to do good in the world and wanting to help the planet.
Right.
So you're more inclined to buy this rather than another sparkling water that tastes just like this but doesn't provide for the planet or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that I see what you're saying from a marketing perspective, and obviously I think that would work for a lot of people. But in terms of the music marketing thing, man, it's musicians, really, it's just creative communities collectively. We all understand that no one can enjoy something if people don't know it exists. Mm-hmm. But then there's an expectation to make yourself smaller at the same time, and that's kind of just like, I don't necessarily know if that's intended to be manipulative. It's just kind of people have a hard time balancing two sides of themselves, because in one respect it's like you're incentivized to say that I'm just doing this because I like doing it. And when you do that, it's hard for people to say, well, I also would like to make a living doing it. And in order for me to make a living, I have to think about things that are not necessarily artistic.
That's totally fine.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. Going back to what I was saying before, after I've made the thing, it has served its purpose with me. And that's kind of what Taylor was saying, the same thing with the rewards and the writing. It's like, after I've made it, well, it's served its purpose with me. I'm not super emotionally invested in what happens to, where it's like I want it to do well, but I don't care how people perceive it. Like, after it's into the world, it is up to them to decide how they feel about it. And then I'll just go make something else. You see what I mean?
Right.
But that's kind of the way that I think about it. When I'm in it, I'm trying to just scratch my own personal itch. And once I feel like that itch has been scratched, great. Off into the world you go. But I'll still do everything I can to draw people's attention to it once it's out there. I just don't care how they perceive it once it's out there.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Right.
I don't even know how I perceive my own work, to be honest with you. I just know that I was happy with how it sounded when it was done.
And that's all you gotta worry about, I guess. Cool. Why are you drawn to music?
Why am I drawn to music? It was just always there, man. I mean, like, I would say that my favorite thing about it, I really like good songs. I just really like good songs. I feel like I developed this tendency because it was like after I graduated college, I went home for a little bit, and we were playing this cover gig at this pizza restaurant for like $200 a night or something like that. It was me, my dad, my brother, and a drum machine, and like I had to build the set list. And I don't remember at what point I figured this out, but I was like, we should play songs that people know, like really know. So I went to I'm talking like Brown Eyed Girl and like Boogie Shoes by like Casey and the Sunshine Band, and like we did Just Hold On, We're Going Home by Drake, and we did like Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding, Ain't No Sunshine by Bill Withers. It was like these songs where you could go anywhere on the planet and people who don't even speak English would know. Because it was not like we were like the world's greatest cover band, but it was just like people invest in songs before they invest in personalities. People invest in songs before they invest in performances. People invest in songs before they invest in musicianship. And I was like, that is fucking cool. I want to write catchy songs like that. That is my favorite part about it, is like trying to make something catchier than the last time. That's my favorite part of the whole thing. But outside of that, like I was saying, man, like my like so much of my relationship with music was like coerced. I did not.
Onto you.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice. I just didn't have a choice. And then at that point, it's just what you've done. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it wasn't like it was being done in the context to where like I had like parents in the industry. You know what I mean? It was right. You know what I mean? Yeah, so, like at this point, it's just like I'm 28, man. Like it is at this point. I've had restaurant jobs and I've had sit-down desk jobs with 401ks and insurance, and I realize I don't really care for either of them. And with the work, like I don't really see any point in investing in anything that I don't actually care about doing. So I'm just like, this is just what I'm going to do. You know what I mean?
You care about music.
Yeah. It's the only thing that I feel like I enjoy enough to try really hard at without also investing in the outcome. Like I used to work for Lyft's corporate headquarters, did not care about it. But you're in an environment to where you're incentivized to be very invested in these very abstract outcomes. And I guess what companies like that are banking on is that you're invested enough in your own personal advancement in terms of like being a consumer that you're willing to do anything for a promotion. And I'm like, dude, this is fucking dumb. I'm not doing that. And that worked for about 2 years. And then it was obvious to both me and my supervisor that this wasn't going to work. And then I quit. And restaurants are kind of the same way, but there's less room to bullshit in restaurants just because everything moves so fast. I don't know. Like, none of us asked to be here. And we have to find a way to fill our time and pay our bills while we're here.
Make the most of it.
Yeah, and music just is kind of the only thing that I have that really checks all those boxes without me wanting to gouge my eyes out.
Well, that's good.
At least in the broader scheme of things, anyway. Like when you're sitting in a recording, sometimes you definitely want to gouge your eyes out.
Right, but that's part of the sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's part of the process. Like, you know, it's just like going on a run or something like that, man. You gotta.
Once it starts getting hard, that's when you're learning.
Yeah, man. But
yeah, I think you gave reason enough.
Mm-hmm.
How do you develop your musical skills?
Dude, like, I just kind of do, like, I sit down, when it's time to sit down and record, I sit down and record. When it's time to get with the band and rehearse, it's time to sit down with the band and rehearse. And that's kind of it. Like, you know, it's probably not, you know, I don't practice guitar a lot. I don't practice bass a lot. I sing when I have to sing. You know, when it's time to do the thing, it's just time to do the thing. But like, if I'm not actively getting ready for a show or actively making something, I'm chilling out. You know what I mean? I'm just, you know, I want to enjoy my time while I'm here. And like, I'm not the kind of person to where like I always have to be doing something. I like to sit down and vibe out and just chill out. But inevitably you get bored, and then I'll go and I'll do like a thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But like I said, I'm 28. I didn't start playing guitar till I was 20 years old. And like I said, I never really became a pianist. I learned some very introductory stuff to piano, and then I learned music. And when you learn music, it's like you and I are having a conversation. It's like a vocabulary, like in terms of rhythm, in terms of harmony, in terms of melody, you know, in terms of chord progressions. Like, if you could go back and replay this conversation in your speech and in my speech, you'd probably recognize a lot of the time we're saying the same kinds of things over and over again. We're phrasing things the same way over and over again. When you understand the broader vocabulary of music, you just get how it works. Mm-hmm. And not even necessarily in like a university music theory perspective, but like if you like were to dissect popular music, there's only a handful of chord progressions people use.
Right.
And you could even like...
Only a handful of beats.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's how music works. Like, it ultimately is a recycling.
You say the same thing, but you say it in your way, and that's what makes it different.
Exactly. And at this point in my life, I'm just kind of at the age to where I feel like that's just kind of like the thing. Like, you don't remember learning to speak.
No.
That's kind of how I am with music.
Right.
Yeah.
So, of all time, current, now, what are some of your favorite bands and artists?
Damn, dude. This is no particular order. But the Strokes, big one. Alabama Shakes, big one. Mac DeMarco, big one. Curtis Mayfield, big one. Who else is in there? Marvin Gaye is a big one. Sam Cooke is a big one. In the grand scheme of it, there's a lot of them, man. But like as far as Love Montage is concerned, Strokes, Alabama Shakes, and Mac DeMarco are the three biggest influences. And obviously, like, I mean, I was a little older when I came into their music, and obviously, like, Alabama Shakes was making records. They made 2 records, but they made those records, like, at, like, prime musical consumption age. So I was kind of, like, they weren't, like, classic to me. Like, the Strokes have been around for a long time before I, like, seriously got into their work. And I guess with Mac DeMarco is the same way. Like, that's an artist that I kind of, like, watched make a career. You know what I mean? I used to listen to the Black Keys a lot. Like, I got pretty good knowledge of the Black Keys discography, but I don't find myself listening to their work a whole lot more. Like, I don't know if you've listened to much of their work.
I mean, I have.
Attack and Release, Brothers, El Camino. That's a hell of a 3-album run right there. And Brothers, I think, is the best one out of it. Like, Attack and Release is a close second, an arguable second. And then El Camino is good, just not as good as the other 2. And then before that, there's Rubber Factory and Thick Freakness, which are also very good. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Rubber Factory was their second. So the first one was the Big Come Up, then they did Rubber Factory, and then they did Thick Freakness, which is also a pretty good 3-album run. And that's their debut, their sophomore, and then their third, if I'm not mistaken. And then they made Magic Potion. And then Chulahoma either came before or after Magic Potion, but Chulahoma is just covers. And then they did Attack and Release, and like Attack and Release and Brothers, like that work is pretty serious. So I guess, I don't know, I'm going to throw the Black Keys in there too, and I'm going to do that because I love those 2 records, and I love El Camino, and I love Rubber Factory. And I love Thick Freakness, but also Dan Auerbach's solo work and like his side projects are really, really good because he released he's the vocalist and the guitarist and like the primary songwriter, and the other part is Patrick Carney, who's the drummer and like primary producer. But Dan Auerbach released a solo album after Brothers came out called Keep It Hid, which is like it's like a bluesy, it's like a rootsy album, but it's edgy for roots music, and it's not like it's like Southern Gothic. It's like really rootsy guitar rock with like kind of like this. It just has this like garage rock hip hop edge to it. That record's really good. And then he did the Arcs, which had like one album and then like 2 EPs, which are also really good. I don't know if you've listened to that stuff.
The Arcs?
Yeah,
is that a band?
It's his. It's a side project. Yeah, it's a side project.
I think I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, the shit was good. The songs are like impeccable. That also had a really big influence on, like, more so than the Black Keys stuff, because the Black Keys stuff is still very, very bluesy. It's not like Marcus King or like like Chris Stone Ingram like bluesy, but like, or Joe Bonamassa bluesy, but it's like North Mississippi kind of alt bluesy stuff. It's still cool. It's just like my music just isn't that bluesy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Alabama Shakes, I think they really like kind of split the difference between like the rootsy Americana side and the indie rock side in a way that's hard to do, and you don't see that often, especially on the second album, because the second album isn't really that rootsy. The first one is, but the songs are also they're really, really pop friendly. The second album, songs are catchy and they're accessible, but the songwriting is a little bit more adventurous and the production is way more adventurous. Like, it's hard to, like, it has rootsy moments, but you wouldn't listen to it and call it rootsy. You know what I mean? Obviously, Mac DeMarco is not rootsy at all. It's kind of like, have you listened to Mac DeMarco at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tons.
Okay.
Nowadays.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's weird because I don't know. At first, I didn't get it. And just like I was telling you about that one Eminem thing on Noisy, there was a Noisy article where this dude listened to every Mac DeMarco song in order, and at this point there's Rock and Roll Nightclub, there's 2, and there's Salad Days, and nothing else is out. So this is like the Salad Days album cycle, which is like his peak popularity, at least like at this point he's like a legacy artist, you know what I mean? He's got like,
he's already built his name out, like he's not still being discovered really.
Yeah,
like
this is like peak Mac DeMarco, like Salad Days is out and this dude's writing it, and I was listening to it, and at that point I was kind of just like, this makes me want to go to sleep. And then I don't know what happened, but I was at MTSU and there was a snowstorm, so class was like canceled for a couple of days, and I was sitting in my room and I put on Rock and Roll Nightclub, and I don't know what happened, but like I thought that album was just so cool, and then I like got it, and then that just like contextualized all of his other music for me. Which is weird because like Rock and Roll Nightclub is like the most adventurous one.
Yeah.
And then 2 is like, the songs are really, really good, but obviously the production isn't that, like he didn't pitch the whole record down on a tape machine. And then the next one, Salad Days, the songs are really, really good. They're just not good. Like 2 is like the perfect Mac DeMarco album. Rock and Roll Nightclub might be the best one, arguably. But 2 is like the perfect one. It's like if you want to encapsulate like what or who Mac DeMarco is and like what it meant for the next generation of like indie self-recorded home musicians, because like low-key he was like too successful in his influence. It was just like
dude, yeah, he was a force.
Yeah, like it, yeah, and it, but I mean like
the 5-panel hat was everywhere.
Yeah, Even Captured Tracks couldn't have imagined like what he did for like indie culture and indie music. Like there's just a whole generation of musicians like just copying that to some degree. And to be honest with you, other than Kanye West and Taylor Swift, I can't think of anybody else in music in the past 20 years that has had that much of an influence on the following generation of musicians.
Maybe Radiohead.
Maybe.
But no one can really like.
Yeah.
Maybe Muse is, in my opinion, kind of the knockoff Radiohead.
I feel like I'm inclined to say that's the closest thing that there is, because I just can't think of anything else that like Radiohead is like its own thing to the point where it's like you can't point to anyone who is like 15 to 20 years younger who's like doing, because like even the Muse guys are older at this point. They're in their 40s, right? The guys from Muse, like Matt Bellamy, yeah, you know what I mean? Because like I mean they're closer to contemporaries, right?
Muse
and Radiohead. Like, maybe there's a
They're
little
probably
bit.
in their 50s.
So check this out. Okay, so you know who Lil Uzi Vert is?
I've heard.
He's a rapper who, you know, he's like really popular, and like his first record, I can't remember what it was called anymore. He said that his biggest influence was Kanye West's 808s and Heartbreaks.
Oh yeah, well that like birthed like Drake, and then like I forgot which album birthed basically Kid Cudi.
It's probably 808s and Heartbreaks.
Yeah, Kid, because that all these other rappers were taking like one of his albums and then kind of taking it in their own direction.
That record made melodies okay in hip hop, and to the point to where, you know, like Drake and Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole, like one of the defining characteristics of their work is they sing. J. Cole like tries to not sing as much as he can, but like he sings. And obviously in a lot of forms of trap music, where there's like Lil Uzi Vert or Young Thug or like Future, Chief Keef sometimes singing in auto-tune. That is literally like 808s and Heartbreaks, even though people were kind of like, Kanye, what the fuck are you doing when it came out? It influenced the next generation of people who make rap and hip hop music in a way that you can't imagine. With Taylor Swift, I don't know if you've ever seen like Every Noise at Once, which is a website.
Oh yeah, dude. Or everynoise.com.
Yeah.
So I love that website.
There's a whole subgenre. There are two subgenres called Alt Z and Gen Z songwriter. And when you go and listen to that shit, it's Taylor Swift. Like, and some of it might be like edgier in the content, the subject matter, but she, as a singer-songwriter, has had immense influence on the next generation of songwriters who are like 17, 18, 19, probably up to about being 23. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Mac DeMarco is the only person that I can think of that has also had that kind of influence to where people are trying, they're doing their exact same version of the same thing. Because like Radiohead is a lot of different things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they went through the kind of Aphex Twin obsession.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I like randomly a couple months ago after watching the Woodstock 99 documentary, I started listening to some Korn and like studying Korn, watching all the interviews, just watching different documentaries. And then like in 2005 they had their kind of change in sound where it was kind of like low tempo or whatever, down tempo, and it was like more electronic. And then I realized after hearing that, I was like, now I know where fucking Imagine Dragons and all this other bullshit came out of, because they birthed off of like, I forgot what the song is called, like Korn, but like after hearing that song, I was like, AWOL Nation and all those shit burned off this.
That makes a lot of
Like
sense.
Sail, that song copied this Korn song basically to a T. And then I was like, now I understand where all that other bullshit came from.
So I don't, like, that is not a part of, like, the music world that I'm, like, super attuned to, but it does make sense because, like, stuff that sounds like Imagine Dragons was a whole wave. And,
just like the whole dubstep wave.
Yeah. So,
Which was our, like, high school, which I, like, cringe now looking back at it. Like, you know, okay, long story short, I'll detail this guy's car, and he's like our age, and he was like, here man, I'll leave the car on so you can listen to music or whatever, and so he just plays music. I don't know why, I was like, okay, like he just left the battery on, and it was all dubstep music, and I was like, man, I haven't listened to this in like 10 or 12 years. And he's like, yeah, it's my favorite music. And I was like, man, then I realized he's like us, but he's stuck in that time period.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people do. What they listen to in high school is basically...
What they listen to forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, wow, man, this person is stuck in the dubstep realm. Like, I haven't listened to this shit in a while.
The way I remember it is it came and went.
Yeah, like, dude, it came and went. Like by 2013, I think it was over.
In that moment would be when Taylor Swift dropped Red. I think it was 2012 or 2013, and it has.
I think it peaked in 12.
Okay, so Taylor Swift's "I Knew You Were Trouble."
Yeah.
It. Have you heard that song?
No.
It has a dubstep drop in it.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, it was a big enough of an EDM phenomenon to where they used production elements for that song in particular on that Taylor Swift album. And then that was probably the moment where I think it was over. But even with dubstep, other than Skrillex, who were the other like flag bearers of that sound. You know what I mean?
Nectar.
Okay. My EDM knowledge
Pretty Lights
is not very
well,
good.
he wasn't really dubstep.
Uh-huh.
He was just EDM, electronic. But yeah, Bass Nectar probably.
Okay.
And then I don't know who else.
I am woefully undereducated on electronic music because it's like metal to where it's like the subgenres are like infinite. You know what I mean?
Right. Electronic music, and some of it can just be like some forms of metal where you just want to go take a shower after you listen to it because you're like, oh.
You think so?
Some of it can be so nasty. Like electronic, like where it's just, I don't know, so overproduced. So, and then it's just like the drops are so, and like it just seems so repetitive or like very predictable and very cliche. It's just like, oh god.
So, in terms of genre, like what is a genre but a collection of cliches though?
Sure, but the way that it's done makes it original.
That's fair. Okay.
You could wear the same shirt as you're wearing now. I could wear that same shirt, but the fact that you have it not buttoned up makes it your own.
This is fair.
I could wear that, maybe button it up, maybe not, but it would be different.
Yeah, no, you got a point.
All right, awesome. How would you best describe the type of musician you are?
Just a DIY pop artist.
Okay.
It's DIY pop. Sometimes I call it budget pop because the way that I explain, like, so in one respect, like I was saying, like genres are really just a collection of cliches, which is I still think is true, but it's also cliche plus ideology. Like, you know, with like various punk movements, there tends to be a belief system associated with them. With
anarchy.
Yeah, like there are a lot of different punk flavors, man.
Right.
But even like if we were to take country music for example, right, and you were to unpack country music in terms of subgenre, you know, there's outlaw country and then there's like western, and there's like bro country, and there's all this kind of stuff. They all have their, even if they're implicit, they have belief systems that are wrapped into not only the way that the songs are written, but also in the way that the musicians like present them. Exactly. Yeah. So I don't mix and master my own stuff, but I do record all of it, and I cannot play the drums. So either I use sample drums, or I'll just hire somebody to come and play drums on the track, and then I'll just overdub on top of the drum parts or whatever. But recording everything myself and keeping my production costs down are very central to the idea of what Love Montage is and how it works. And it developed out of necessity, but I also just happen to believe that the next era of music making is the realm of the I wear many hats and do like the doesn't necessarily have to be psychedelic like Kevin Parker, but that method of music making I feel like is going to be more and more of what dominates what we listen to, simply because the income streams are getting smaller and smaller while the amount of music that is available for consumption gets bigger, so you have to figure out a way to cut your costs if you're ever going to make it viable for yourself. And the easy way to do that is to do more things on your own. You know what I mean? Like, I never planned for this to be a thing, but like Love Montage is, in one respect, like it's a collection of songs, but it's also becoming like kind of like a visual arts project. Like, there's not a whole lot of video yet, but there is a little bit of video. Yeah, I try to do a visual and a themed photo shoot for every song that I release. It's kind of like, if you like for an album cycle, what it used to be is like the artist like subtly rebrands a little bit for everyone. I kind of do that for every single. You know what I mean? But that was just something that developed over time. Though it wasn't something that I set out to do. That was just something that I learned. But the do-it-yourself mindset, I'm really, really into. Like, I love Guided by Voices and the Flaming Lips. Some of that stuff, I wonder how DIY it was, especially later, but still the spirit is there. You know what I mean?
Coyne and Steven.
Yeah.
Wayne and Steven.
Have you seen them?
Like 7 times.
No, dude. I want to go see them.
I've seen them so many times. First time I saw them was in 2008 at City Stages Music Festival in Alabama. They were playing with like Michael Franti and Spearhead and all these other groups. It was a great time.
Yeah.
Teletubbies on stage. Wayne rolls out in a hamster ball.
Yeah.
And like the beginning of certain songs, he's confetti cannons blow out, and like they push all these, they throw all these like blow up balls in the crowd, and when you hit one, it will explode, and then like glow sticks fly out. It's wild, dude.
Yeah.
It's rated like one of the number one shows to see before you die.
I've heard. I really want to see the Flaming Lips. Like even though I've named like the Strokes and Mac DeMarco, like I've seen Mac DeMarco once, but it was acoustic tour. I haven't seen the Strokes yet, but like
I've seen the Strokes. They're pretty good.
Yeah. When did you see them?
Shaky Knees Music Festival in 2015 in Atlanta.
Okay.
Mac DeMarco was also there. Tame Impala was also there.
Oh man.
It was like Interpol, Tame Impala. I saw Panda Bear, TV on the radio, the Pixies, Wilco, Neutral Milk Hotel. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. It was a pretty good lineup.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a great lineup. All right, cool. Where do you find inspiration?
I don't know, man. I've been finding it more from like movies and like television lately. Like I don't know, like
what movies and
shows? Matt, it's coming on today. Like after I leave here, I'm gonna go exercise, and then I'm gonna clean up my room, and then I'm gonna watch Better Call Saul. I love Better Call Saul so much.
Okay.
Are you into that?
I'm basically about to do the same thing you are.
Yeah.
Go work out. I've already cleaned my room.
Yeah.
But then I'm probably gonna watch. I've watched Breaking Bad. I haven't watched Better Call Saul.
Oh, you haven't seen any of Better Call Saul?
No.
Oh, damn, dude. But I don't know, man. Like when I started writing Love Montage songs, I was mainly like writing them about and for my girlfriend at the time. And it's weird because like right now I'm like, I have a lot of songs from that time in my life, which was like 5-6 years ago, that just aren't out yet. But I also like make new stuff. So like right now, it's about equal parts because I only have 7 songs out right now, and there's another one coming out very, very soon. And like I got 3 more on the calendar that I will be done recording with by the end of the year. I don't know if they'll all be out. 2 of them will probably be out before the year's out, but they're all newer songs. None of them are from like the first batch of Love Montage songs. Like I still got those, but none of them are like, only a handful of them are out. But at that point I was writing them like either about her or like for her, even if only adjacently. But I don't know, like I love James Dean, like I love like Sigourney Weaver is like Ellen Ripley. I love just the
I love Alien.
Yeah, that's great. I love
Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
Prometheus, Alien Covenant, Alien. So awesome.
He was supposed to get a 3rd one, but I don't know if he's gonna get it. A 3rd prequel movie. Because I love, like, I don't know, do you like Covenant or do you like Prometheus better?
I would say Covenant probably scared me.
Yeah.
Jump scares.
Covenant's a little bit better than Prometheus, but I like them both. But I don't know. It's hard for me to explain the way that like these things work in my, because I'm not necessarily like a super like emotional songwriter, you know what I mean? Like what I write, it means like it might have like implicit meaning to me, but I try to keep it vague enough to where people just want it to mean whatever they want it to mean, and then I just try to build like kind of like a soundscape around it that like is snappy but also kind of dreamy at the same time. And I don't know, like I guess when I'm like recording, I'm just thinking about like imaginary places a lot of the time, and imaginary people in imaginary places, you know, beaches and like, I don't know, really shitty dive bars at beaches in space. I don't know, like I spent a lot of time alone as a kid, man. Like I was saying, I had those encyclopedias and shit, so like I have a really vast imagination.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It doesn't always make like sense if I'm dictating it to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what kind of makes that cool is it doesn't really box me into stuff either. You know what I mean?
Right. You kind of are self-influenced more than what other person could ever put on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, you said that kind of better than I can say it, because it's like when you're asking me that question, it's like I actually don't know. I just like, I had this demo that I made, I don't know, when I was still working for Lyft, and this demo ended up turning into being like my most recent single is called Sad Boy Sex Life. But when I made the demo, I was like, I never really thought about putting like vocoder in it, and there's kind of like it's like a mild like rap section in it or whatever, and I guess I was listening to The Weeknd a little bit, and like The Weeknd had like, you know, Daft Punk on it, so there was that, and then Kanye West just uses a lot of vocals, like kind of one of the like post, because I keep talking about these 3 album runs, Late Registration, College Dropout, Late Registration, and Graduation is like probably his best 3 album run, because then you get 808s, and then you get My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and then you just get
Easy.
Yeah, you get Yeezus was before My Beautiful Dark Fantasy, or no, it was after. Okay,
that was 2010 when My Beautiful Dark Fantasy. 2013 is when Yeezus came out.
Okay, well, okay.
I saw him in 2014.
Okay.
Bonnaroo.
So in my opinion, he only has 1 3 album run. But with that being said, with Yeezus and with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and then a lot of the stuff that's come after Yeezus, the trademark of Kanye West is the use of vocals. Mm-hmm. Like black
samples.
Yeah, but he's like he's sampling himself a lot of the time. Like, I mean, well, there are samples, like, let's use Yeezus for example.
Like women's voices and stuff.
A lot of the time it is women. Like Blood on the Leaves has the Nina Simone sample on it.
Yeah.
But like a song like Black Skinhead, other than the drums, all of the instrumentation is vocals. Like no 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 no. But even in addition to the drums, the verse percussion it's breathing and it's beatboxing. Like all of it is human vocals, other than like mainly the drum fill.
Right.
Like that's the only part of it that is not, and that's not something that you hear that often in any music. But like the trademark of like Kanye West up like past a certain point is there aren't really a whole lot of instruments beyond drums. There's vocal samples, and I don't take it to that far.
Now that I look at that or look back, you're right.
They're vocals.
Black Skinhead.
Yeah.
Very much that. Yeah. Because he does the little like.
Yeah. It's like, and it's weird because it's like, in terms of MCs, Kanye West is not the world's greatest rapper, but the production.
Yeah. He's one of the world's greatest producers.
Yeah. Like, that is, like, really, really incredible.
That's kind of like what I would say about the Flaming Lips. Wayne Coyne is not the best singer.
Oh, no.
In fact, his voice can be kind of a little annoying or weird, just like Bob Dylan. Mm. But it's the arrangements and the imaginary landscape he puts you in.
Like, in the same way that I can draw, like, kinship with Wayne Coyne, because it's like, Yushimi battles the Pink Robots and that kind of thing. It's just like this really whimsical world, but it's like, I don't know, it's like you can see it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're at war with the Mystics.
Yeah. What's like the really early She Don't Use Jelly?
Oh yeah.
Which is like, it's these weird people, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's like, she don't use butter, but it's like, you can just imagine like if you met that person in real life, you know what I mean? But it's kind of just like, it's not like this really, really deep and intricate, like, internal look songwriting kind of stuff. It's just kind of just like, it's just wacky, but not in a way that's cringy either.
Yeah, and not in a way that you don't take it seriously either.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been in Nashville now?
4 years, but I was in Murfreesboro before that, so I've been around for a minute.
Okay, cool. And what brought you here initially was MTSU?
MTSU, yeah.
And then obviously you wanted to play music after that?
Yeah.
Okay. What would you say you've learned living here?
Oh, damn, that's a hard question. I don't know. I think that I've really learned to just kind of enjoy the ride and not take the details so seriously. It's probably the biggest thing. I feel like I've learned what it really means to be a part of a community, because there's just so many people making different things and just really dedicating their lives to those different things. Cause that wasn't like, I don't know what your relationship with music as a young person was like, but I didn't grow up around like a musical scene. You know what I mean? That was something that like I just grew into by releasing music. So I feel like I learned a lot about community in that time, and really just like what it means to like be an artist and really just dedicate your life to a creative lifestyle. Because like, you know, there's nothing wrong with like just getting a traditional job. And I think oftentimes it's the rational and logical thing to do. But I didn't know that there were other ways to live other than like clocking in at 9 and then going home at 5 and then going to sleep and then doing the same thing the next day and then getting 2 days off. Because that's the life that my parents lived. And for a long time, I was like trying to figure out from the time that I graduated college until this time last year. So that is from 2017 to about 2021. I was trying to like play both sides and like live a normal life, but also be a musician. And then I realized, no, I'm just going to do it. And I feel like that is really the most important lesson that I've learned, is that if this is something that you want to do, that your life is going to look differently than most people. And that becomes less lonely when you're around other people who are doing the same thing. Because like when I worked at Lyft, I was around a bunch of like musicians who were like, oh yeah, man, like, I'm doing this. But then they're like also like vying for a promotion at the same time. And it's like one of those things is going to take precedent over your interests. And eventually that just became obvious to me. I was just like, oh, I see. And now it's weird. I don't miss it. Because like when I had like the security, like having like the secure, like, because I like, you know what I mean? I worked from home for most of the pandemic, and that was nice, and I think it was necessary at the time, because that's when I seriously started putting music out. And I think I needed like the safety to be able to get started in the journey in that respect. But now that I'm at it and I look back on it, I can't imagine ever going back to it, because I was like, when I was done with work, I was just wasting my time trying to forget about work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like sometimes in restaurants you want to do that, but like they just don't require as much mental investment as like a.
You don't take your work home with you.
Yeah, like anything that goes wrong is wrong in that moment. It's not like this broader. This is a manipulation game with like you and a supervisor, because your supervisor's advancement either in that company or in a broader career field is hinged upon your advancement, because when you get promoted, they look good because they take credit for your promotion. So you become a problematic employee when they realize that you're just there for the check while you go and do your thing. You know what I mean? But that's exactly what I was just like, yeah, I want the money to go and record this stuff. That's what I want. You know what I mean? But supervisors in that environment, they assume that everybody that gets a job like that is there because they want to climb the corporate ladder, when most people are there because they want access to a doctor. That's why most people are there. It's a guaranteed healthcare policy. Well, at least historically it has been. That might also be going away from more and more companies. But yeah, man, I don't know. Community, and I feel like I've just really gained an appreciation for the fact that there are ways to live outside of just, punching the clock every day, right, that kind of thing.
You can give yourself meaning.
Yeah.
Cool. What is some advice you would give to someone who's going to move here and pursue art?
Let me see. That's a good question. I would say I work in a restaurant, and not necessarily because you're passionate about working in restaurants, but I feel like the service industry is a good way to kind of get introduced to the city, like from like an actual like emotional standpoint, like for you to actually feel like you're kind of a part of this. Because it's like, if you come here, and I don't blame anybody for getting like a safe and secure job, but when you get a job like that and try to, get out and meet people and quote unquote network or build relationships, wherever you want to call it, you're isolated from everything. You know what I mean? Because typically, like if you're coming here with creative ambitions, the people that are actually living, they don't live in like this insulated world to where you clock in at 9, you listen to some bullshit meetings, and then you go out to drink and be served. You see what I'm saying? If you want to really build relationships with creative people and actually feel like you're contributing to the community, I would say work in a restaurant. That's where a lot of the strongest relationships that I have came from. You know what I mean? And you work in enough of them for long enough, and you start to see the same people all over the place. Like that was really like, so when I moved from Murfreesboro to Nashville, I had like a $10 an hour work from home call center job, and I was making no money. And then I got fired from that job, and then I went to go work at Bar Taco, and that was really my introduction to this city, was working there. And I'm not saying because Bar Taco is very different now, obviously, but like that introduced me to 12 South, which introduced me to Burger Up, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Fly Golden Eagle.
Yeah.
So
I've seen them.
Half of that band, they don't work there anymore, but they worked at Burger Up down 12 South. Freeze works there now. The Lenox Hills guys work down there now, like at Burger Up.
Which one?
The 12 South one, because the East Nashville one got knocked out in a tornado. Yeah, and then there's still one in Cool Springs, but that's also like kind of a different thing. But a couple of them work at Burger Up. That's really where like the folks are, man. It's that they're the overlap between the service industry and the music industry. Like that's really where you need to be. And also
shops.
Yeah, coffee shops, restaurants, and bars.
Yeah.
But it'll also just be better, I think, for your creative spirit to work in that environment, because don't get me wrong, it can get toxic, but you
take from it.
You just feel more like you get numb to reality working in like a secure position. I feel like, I feel like that like that mindset can get real toxic real quick, that I have to suffer for my art. So I think that people should be careful with that, but at the same time, it's really hard to invest in something if you don't have something to push up against.
Right.
I felt like I was wasting away when I had a sit down job, and I didn't realize it until like some music stuff was starting to happen a little bit, and that's when like my eyes really got opened. But before that, I didn't realize just how like not invested I was. And when you're not emotionally invested in anything and you're just trying to pay bills month after month after month, well, your life is slowly ending.
Yeah, it is. You're existing, you're not living.
Yeah. But work in a restaurant and go to a lot of shows.
Okay.
Those would be my big ones. Work in a restaurant, go to a lot of shows, and try to live as cheap as you can. That's the other thing that I like.
Be frugal.
Yeah, but it's like there's some artists who are just like they're just predisposed to it, towards like making stuff is all that they need. But like I said, a lot of us are trying to exist in both worlds at the same time. You know what I mean? And when you're trying to exist in both worlds at the same time, then the time that you spend and the money that you spend not focusing on making things stops you from making things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know, it's like, I feel like that's what I would say if you're just moving here, work in a restaurant, go to shows, be frugal. Like you said, you put it more concisely than I put it. But I feel like you'll start to lean into all of those things when you get to a point where you just feel like fulfilled with what you're doing.
Yeah.
I had to stumble around a little bit before I got to a point where I was like, cool, like this is the thing. And then all of a sudden, all the other shit starts to matter a whole lot less. And you just become a little bit more focused. But I know it sounds weird, but that first one is big, because just like so many people are moving here for non-creative purposes. They just think it's the cool place to live, or they're coming from a place that's so expensive that they think it's cheap, and it's making everything expensive for the rest of us. Like you and I didn't grow up here, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like I want to be like sensitive to that part. But with so many people moving here, when you're moving here as an artist, sometimes I think it can maybe feel a little isolating, even though there's so many people that are actually making really, really cool stuff that live here. But you just like the place that I work at now opened in February, and like everybody that works there like got here like in the past 6 months. But none of them are like creative types. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is a little disorienting. You know what I mean? Like if you go and you work at a place that's been here for a while, well, you find a lot of creative play. But some of these new places with like corporate backing, and then they'll open up and they'll sink their teeth into people who are also just moving here, and they know that they're isolated, and they know that they have no like social base, and then that place becomes their city.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like, how long have you been here?
Almost 5 years.
Okay, like imagine hearing somebody saying, "Yeah, I heard about this really cool place called Mas Tacos." Like, I hear stuff like that all the time. Like, I mean,
because you're like, that means they've not been here.
Right. It's like Mas Tacos is great. Like, I'm not saying, but it's just like, oh my God, this it's like, well, yeah. I mean, they've been there like longer than the restaurant that you work in.
They think everything's new.
Yeah, and to be fair, it is to them.
Yeah.
But it's also like when you're looking at it from like I just moved here just to move here kind of thing. You run the risk of everything just being kind of like disposable. especially at the rate that new stuff is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, remember where Shep's used to be?
Yeah.
Now it's a pizza place.
ME Squared.
But I guess that's a chain pizza place. Apparently they're all over the country. I didn't know that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, somebody was telling me that the other day. I don't eat a lot of pizza, but like 5 Points is right there, man. And apparently
So
the square. What?
Italia.
Okay, I haven't been there yet.
Place.
Yeah, man. Like at the rate that new things are going up, and at the rate that like a lot of property developers are really trying to just cater towards, just like, you know, there's nothing wrong with being, you know, the wife and kid dude. There's nothing wrong with that. But when everything is tailored to them, it makes everything feel disposable, and it creates this environment where it's like, oh well, you know, like just like they didn't renew the lease on the they didn't renew it for Crying Wolf, but they also didn't renew the lease for Bolton's.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying?
Wow, both of those places are going.
Yeah, they might relocate. Yeah, 'cause Franz did the same thing. Like Franz.
Right. I kind of like where it is now. It's fine.
I kind of like the new. Yeah.
It's got pizza there too.
Yeah,
So it's like
the new location. I think that was an upgrade.
yeah, it's much bigger.
But
I miss it being where it was.
Because it was real close to you.
Super close.
Yeah.
To me. Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it could have gone the other way, and it could have not come back.
Right.
I don't know. Those are my 3 things, though, dude.
Okay, cool. What is your biggest personal growth from last year to this year?
Dang, that's a good question. To be honest with you, I think that I'm just more secure in my, like, from a personal standpoint, I'm just a lot more secure in myself, and I feel like I don't feel the need to be validated as much. I think I can just kind of sit with my process and not feel the need to be doing something all the time and, you know, proving that I am in fact doing something.
Right.
I just sit there and incubate, and when it's done, it's done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're not letting anyone wait on you, or you're not waiting on anyone.
Yeah.
Like, you're kind of like, I'm doing it on my own.
When so in 2021, I put out a song that got on a Spotify playlist, and it was like the coolest thing in the world. And then it happened again, and then after that I was just like, okay, well, this is just kind of the thing, and now I know that it's possible. But at that point I didn't really feel, I'd proven enough to myself to really no longer care about proving anything to anybody else at that point. Because just to be honest, when you're starting out, I think most people
That's everything almost.
Yeah. And then once you get like a little taste of it, you realize that things just go back to normal.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that, yeah, dude, because this time last year I hadn't even quit Lyft yet. That was the first time I'd even played live since the pandemic. And at that point, I wasn't even doing full band shows yet. Again, yeah. Like I was doing them in 2019, and then the pandemic happened in March of 2020. Like, I think the last show that I remember playing before the pandemic was in September of 2019, September or October. But really, like, I don't know, like, I had been like making small steps towards this for a while, but nothing really got going until around this time last year is when it became like real to me. And then it was real enough for long enough to be like, okay, cool. You know, I've gotten enough of a taste of it to be like, cool, let me just focus on what I'm doing and not really worry about what other people are thinking.
Okay, cool. What are some of your favorite YouTube videos?
Oh man, I don't know.
What type of YouTube videos?
I listen to a lot of creepypastas.
Creepypastas?
Yeah, they're scary. They're internet scary stories. So creepypastas originally were they were like Reddit forums where people would write scary stories, and they would go viral. They'd either go viral or they would be quote unquote validated by other people. Like one of the earliest creepypastas was this thing called Squidward Suicide, which asserted that there was a secret unreleased SpongeBob episode with Squidward shooting himself in it. And there were people that claimed to have seen this tape and claimed the validity of this tape. They're not real, obviously, but like in like 2012 Reddit, people was, I don't know, is this real? And you know, people would whisper about it here and there, you know what I mean? But they're just fictional stories. But it became enough of a thing where people started writing their own, and it just became its own subculture. And now people narrate them. So I listen to those I don't really listen to those till the fall though. But I spend a lot of time on YouTube watching those. I watch a lot of Dave Ramsey. I watch a lot of political content. So Sam Cedar, The Majority Report, I don't know if you know Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar.
I know Dave Ramsey. I've read Total Moneymaker.
Everybody knows Dave Ramsey, man.
I know a lot of people that work for him.
Yeah, a lot of people know, because he's right there in Franklin. I think our politics are obviously different, but a lot of his practical information is great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, get out of debt.
Yeah.
Have credit cards.
I do watch a lot of his content. I watch a lot of... Have you seen Lex Friedman's show?
I'm not sure.
He's a podcaster. I'm trying to think what else. I watch a lot, like when I'm recording, I'll put YouTube on and I'll watch like video, like I'll just have video games on, so I just have something to like look at, you know, while I'm recording the same part over and over and over again. So like I watch like Resident Evil long play videos. What else do I watch? I watch infographics a lot. They talk about history and they talk about like, you know, what if the world exploded in a nuclear war, that kind of thing. I watch a lot of YouTube. Like,
it's my favorite technological advance since 2004 or 5, whatever.
Yeah.
It's my favorite more than the smartphone.
Yep. And it's also weird because I don't watch YouTube on my phone. It just doesn't hit the same.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I always have one window dedicated for YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So I can just search whatever, whenever.
I love YouTube. I watch Vlad TV. I don't know if you ever watch Vlad TV. He was a DJ back in the day, but now he just has like a hip hop news station. So he interviews a lot of like contemporary figures in rap music. There's a YouTube channel called Blackie Speaks who does hip hop commentary. There's another one named Sean C who does hip hop commentary. I watch a lot of hip hop commentary, which is funny because I don't listen to that much rap music, but I do try to keep up what's going on in the world of music. I don't watch much Anthony Fantano. I see his TikToks a lot, and I'll watch reviews of albums that I like am interested in his thoughts on, but I don't really watch that much of his content anymore. The last video of his, I just wanted to see what he said about the Drake album, so I watched his live reaction video to Drake's Honestly Nevermind, and then I watched his review, which was only like maybe 12 minutes long, and he gave it a not good. Which, for a Drake album, man, that's pretty devastating, dude. So I'll probably watch his one when he does his one for the new Beyonce album, see what he thinks about it.
Okay, cool. Is there anything you would like to add that I haven't asked you about?
No, man, I think you covered a lot. You asked good questions, especially those last few. I really had to think about those.
Okay, cool. Here's the last question.
Cool.
What is something absurd you love or do?
Something absurd that I love or do?
It could be something that you really like, or it could be something you do that you really love that's absurd.
I'm thinking. Something absurd. I'm going to give you an answer. I just don't know what it is yet. Something absurd, man. I don't know. That's not really... I feel like lifting cinder blocks isn't absurd. That's just like a cheap alternative to weights, and I'd happen to have them at my house. People might find this absurd. I will buy several versions of the same shirt. Like, I have like several of the same, like they're like Wrangler Comfort Flex shirts, so they're kind of like this, but they're like not as nice. And I have like 3 of them in the same color, and I have like 3 H&M Oxfords in the same color, and I have like a dozen H&M white t-shirts in the same color. Like I will buy the same thing over and over and over again. Which I'm not gonna like in one respect it's like a it's a functional thing, because I have to think less about like what I put on, and I know that I have something that I just feel comfortable and I feel like my best in. But I feel like there is an element of compulsion in it, because I had this one period last year to where like I bought like 4 Carhartt J97 jackets, which is like probably the most financially like absurd and impulsive thing that I had ever done in my life, because I just kept buying them. Like I don't know if you ever do shit and you just like watch yourself do it and be like, what the fuck are you doing? So like I quit Lyft and I cashed out my 401k and I put it in my savings account, and I all of a sudden just had all this money just sitting there. And I was also just in a massive transitional period, and when you're in a transitional period, things get scary and you get emotional, and you're prone to behavior that you just yeah, and you know better, right? Like rationally you know better, but you're in a thing where you just have this like need to just do these things. And I like the J97s are like vintage. Like, they don't make them anymore, and they're cut differently than most Carhartt jackets. And I saw one. I was like, dude, I want one of those. And I found one, and I bought it on eBay. And they weren't cheap. They were like $180 because Kanye West wore one. Like, all the little vintage kids were like obsessed with them or whatever. And then like eBay started recommending me other ones, but the other ones were like progressively cooler than the last one. And it's like, I shouldn't buy it. And then I bought 4 of them. You know what I mean?
It's all the same one?
No, they're different colors, but still, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's I have like a green one that has like paint splatter over it, and then I have this gray one that was like from like a drilling company or something like that. So it has like custom like stitching on it and stuff like that. It was like, don't get me wrong, it's nice to have them, and I'm glad that I have them, but like, it is the most financially irrational thing that I can think of maybe ever doing. And I could not believe, like when I think about it, I was like, I cannot believe that I did that. But the point being, that in of itself was a little absurd, but I do like have a pattern. Like, I think the most compulsive thing that I can think of that I do is like, I will buy several versions of the same thing. I have like 4 Timex Expeditions. I only have 1 G-Shock though. For some reason that the G-Shock bug didn't hit me. But like, when I go and I look at the stuff that I have, it's like, damn, you've got like 6 of those. And like I said, I don't have to think so much about what I put on, so that is nice. I mean, I think that there is value in having a personal uniform, but sometimes I haven't bought clothes in forever now, but sometimes, like, when I'm in those periods, I'll feel the impulse to be like, well, damn, you really like that shirt, you should buy another one. You know what I mean?
Right. Instead of just having 1 backup, what if you had 5?
Yeah, no, like, that is an actual thought that I have, and it's like
I've definitely bought 3 pairs of the same shoes.
This same color?
Yeah.
Really?
Because I would wear them out so fast.
See, that's kind of a different thing. I don't know how often you analyze your own financial habits, but like the thing, because you've read Total Money Makeover and whatnot, the thing that kind of irritates me about like finance gurus is that they make, like, the principles of personal finance are very logical. They all fall apart because we're not.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Don't spend more than you make.
Right. Which is easier said than done.
Exactly, yeah.
As soon as life starts happening, you see why it's so hard to do that. And not even between like expenses, just like, that means you have to say no to things.
Yeah.
Like N-O, those are the 2 biggest words and the 2 biggest letters in personal finance. The word no.
It's hard for other people to tell us no. It's even harder for us to tell ourselves no.
Yeah. Or there's also a third layer, telling other people no, because like, you know what I mean? Like you know, like,
that's true. That's probably even harder than telling yourself no.
Yeah. The thing with like Dave Ramsey is like, if he's talking to a mom and a dad who make $100,000 a year, but they're like $200,000 in debt, and he's like, well, you need to go down to $30,000 a year, but they've got 2 kids. You're gonna be saying no to those kids a lot, and you know that most people are not strong enough to look those kids in the faces and say that we can't do this, and this, especially when they're making $100,000 a year.
It's a little hit to their ego, pride.
But clearly, sometimes with money, there are things going on inside that make you out of control with it.
Definitely. It can weigh on your emotions.
Yeah.
When you don't have it, you feel like empty, or you feel like everything's scary.
Yeah.
And then when you have an abundance of it, you're like, well, it's not that great.
Yeah.
You're like, well, that's what it feels like when you don't have to worry about money. You're like, oh, well.
The best thing money can buy you, I think, is peace of mind. Though.
Exactly.
I will say that. But it's easy to fuck your own peace of mind up when you get reckless with it. Anyway, man.
All right, dude. Well, thanks for being on here.
My pleasure.
And hanging out.
Dude, enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.